Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Slow Art Friday. My name is Christy McMillan. I'm the Director of Learning and Engagement here at the Asheville Art Museum, and I'm joined by our touring docent, Megan Pyle, who will be leading today's conversation. Each Friday at 12 p.m., docents lead virtual interactive conversations about a few works in our collection or special exhibitions. The goal is simple: slow down, discover the joy of looking at art, and talk about the experience with others. For today's program, Megan will lead us in an interactive conversation about three artworks. There's one in our special exhibition Across the Atlantic, American Impressionism Through the French Lens, and two from the museum's collection. We'll spend about 15 minutes or so with each one. Megan will allow us time to look at each work on our own, slowly, before leading a conversation with questions. As participants, we encourage you to engage in dialogue with Megan, myself, and each other throughout the program. A few notes before we get started today. You notice that your microphones and video were muted by default. We encourage and welcome you to turn on your video at any time, and in just a moment, I'll also make it so that you can mute and unmute your microphone. Choose a quiet room and close the door. Please silence any alerts from nearby devices, as they can be very distracting during the conversation. If you do choose to turn on your video, try not to sit in front of a window, lamp, or other strong source of light or movement, as it makes it hard for us to see you. Use headphones and microphone for best sound quality. While you can log on using a smartphone, we do recommend using a desktop, laptop, or tablet to see slides and meeting tools on a larger screen. Make sure that your screen name includes your first name and last initial, or first name and last name, so that we know who we're talking to throughout the program. In order to ask questions or to make comments throughout the program, you can unmute your microphone when Megan or I ask for questions or comments. That is the easiest and most expedient way to participate. A second way is to type any questions or comments that you have into the chat box. A third way is to raise your hand in the participant sidebar, and I will call on you and ask you to unmute your microphone. Typing in the chat box and raising your hand sometimes can make it so that it takes a while to get to your questions or comments. So please do feel free to unmute your microphone and participate when you would like. Finally, we are recording. If you prefer not to be recorded, make sure that your video and audio remain muted and use the chat box to submit questions or comments. At this time, I'm going to make it so that folks can unmute their microphones. I would ask that you please do leave your microphones muted unless you're actively making a comment or asking a question. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? All right, Megan, what will we be talking about today?
Oh, well, thank you, Christy. And good afternoon, everyone. Megan Pyle. I'm a touring docent and pleased to be part of the Asheville Art Museum community. I'm so happy to be with y'all this afternoon to share a conversation about these artworks. In honor of the fact that color and art stir the emotions, I've chosen the theme, the color blue, finding meaning in you. On the cool spectrum of colors, blue is a primary pigment, and cool colors typically represent cold things like ice, water, snow, or grass. Warm colors appear to move away from the viewer, where cool colors appear to move toward the viewer. Blue is a spiritual color associated with sky and water and being cool and clear and transparent. Blue is an electromagnetic color and inspires peace and introspection. By test, it is found to be the most soothing, subduing, and cooling color, leading the mind to thoughtfulness and deliberation. It's the high vibration of mind that promotes creative ideas. And in its negative effect, dull, dirty blues are cold, indifferent, and depressing, suggesting the blues. So I chose each of these artworks because the color blue is featured prominently. I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts and how the color blue is affecting you. It's a rainy and kind of gray day where I am. So, okay, well, let's go. If there's no questions, may we please see the first slide, Christy? Okay, and as Christy mentioned earlier, this is part of our special exhibit that's on view at the Art Museum January 22nd through April 19th. Across the Atlantic, American Impressionism through the French lens. And generous support for this program is provided by Art Bridges. So if you all would please take a few moments to look at this artwork top to bottom, side to side, and corner to corner. Thank you. Okay, so where is your eye drawn first in this artwork?
My eye is drawn to the fact that there's a reflection, and I'm noticing the different shades of blue and the shadowing, but the reflection of the boat and the water and the building and the sky is just very attractive to me.
Okay, good.
So even though you mentioned blue as being a cool color, I look at this painting and I immediately feel warm and sunny, and I want to smile, and I love it. I just saw this on Sunday in real life at the museum for my first trip back to the museum, and I was just drawn to it because of that reflection, but also because of all the yellows and the golds, and which sort of play off the blues. And to me, it's a warm painting.
Okay, good.
I'm drawn this time around to the strong vertical line in the center, and it happens to be blue, which I hadn't noticed. So just focusing on that, I kind of think of coolness. It's interesting.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Where's your eye drawn first in this artwork?
Well, I noticed the shade in the back, on the buildings in the back, up on the hill, and then the shadows like in the right front, and also on the backs of the buildings that are in front on the top part. So it brings the light out more, of course. The boats, of course, and the reflection in the water is just beautiful.
I think for me, the blue on the bottom grabbed my attention, but then it drew my eye up to all the other blue, the intense blues, which is really almost a turquoise.
Mhm.
And again, like you said, blue is usually cool, but this is a very warm blue. And that also may be because the whole painting also is very warm because of the yellows and the reds and the oranges that are interspersed throughout. And yes, there is even the beige background, the beige buildings still have other colors in them that are very visible.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
The more we look at it, I'm noticing the greens on the right of the boat.
I was just about to say the same thing, Laurel.
Yeah, the forefront, there's green, and there's green on the windows, and green, which looks like moss or something on the side of the building. And yeah, I'm noticing all the greens in there now.
Okay, good.
It's just completely awash with color, really. Because as soon as you said that, Laurel, not only did I see, you know, the greens here, as you were saying, but then there's so much pink even in the side of this building here. But for me, Megan, just to go back to your original question, my eye is drawn sort of dead center of this painting, because just like you said, Sandy, there's this strong vertical, but there's also this really strong horizontal that's being formed just by the line of boats along the quay, and it sort of makes a bullseye right into the center of the artwork, you know.
Yeah, and as I focused on that horizontal line, because I made my mind shift, you can't just stare at the vertical. I see it's divided into, for me, a stationary real world, and then the movement in the water is just magnificent.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm struck. Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
I'm struck by the color, of course, first, and the warmth, and that it's the full spectrum. But I'm also drawn to the nearest object, which is that boat on the right side, and just you can feel the atmosphere, and it makes you just want to get in it and row all around.
Gary?
One of the things that kind of struck me about it was the brush strokes in it and the direction they're taking. So like on this wall where you kind of have the end of the building, everything is kind of going in a slope or
Diagonally.
Diagonally, thank you. I couldn't find that word.
I heard the D, so I was trying to help you
I was
out.
like, why can't I remember the diagonal word? And then in the water, everything is those small brush strokes that are all kind of horizontal. And then on the back buildings, it's almost like they are flatter. And then in the turquoise blue, on the kind of awning of the buildings, you have a particular direction that most of them seem to follow. So I find that kind of interesting, just how consistent in certain places the paint direction has been done, or paint strokes, or.
Okay, good. Kathy? Oh, sorry. Kathy, did you have a comment, or you already spoke? Sorry. Okay, good.
I'll say a little more.
Okay.
As long as I've got the opportunity on the floor. Yeah, and even that building that's in the background, I mean, the color, the use of the color here is so extraordinary, because it feels so soft, and yet there is depth to some of the colors, and it's the full spectrum, but overall it just feels so warm and soft.
I was going to say this, to continue on Kathy's comment, there's a very interesting depth of field in this painting, especially because of the buildings and the both on the left in the background and also on the right. It looks almost like there's a church on a mountain there. There's a really fascinating depth of field brought to this painting because it looks almost flat, and yet if you keep looking at it and looking at it, you see that there is a very big depth of field to it, each layer.
Okay, good.
Megan, over in the chat box, Micah Jean said that she loves how the buildings are glowing with the water's reflection, and that was also something that I'm always in awe of, how artists manipulate color and brushstroke in order to give us this sort of very realistic sense of water and reflections on water. It's something that always sort of blows my mind when I look and it's done and done well. That, you know, you can very clearly make out the reflections of the buildings and the boats and the water, and it's just something that's so amorphous. But if you really just sort of, as Gary was saying, like looking at the individual brush strokes and pick them out, you know, one by one they mean nothing, but when they're all put together they give you this really glorious sense of something that's kind of intangible.
Okay, good.
In
I
the,
noticed
in the, le- in the left quarter of the painting, I've noticed when I looked again, there are some boats and they have very large white sails. And then next to the sails, it looks like a masthead with a flag. What do you see there? There's an orange and a red on top to the left.
It could be a mast.
No, no,
But
no, right.
this I'm thinking just because if you look at the other windows, that this could probably be a window in the building with sort of a mast closer to us in the foreground. But I mean, that's completely up for interpretation.
I meant the two diagonal colors, which looks like on a pole, coming out or going through the tip of those two white sailboat sails.
Oh,
In
I
the left
see.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
Down below a little bit, I think, Christy. Yes, there. Is that what you mean, Karen?
Yeah, but now go up that pole, straight up. You see the orange and the red.
Oh,
That looks like a flag. What do you think?
yes, it does. I see that. I also see how that color is used if you look down below on the, just beneath that, the rooftop. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I see it, as a rooftop. But the other thing that was curious, as Karen was saying that, is the element that's just off of the center with the green on top. I'm curious about what everyone thinks that is, with the vertical structure, like slats almost. And then the only other thing I notice is that if you look at this painting, it looks basically like it's a lot of white buildings. And yet, if you look at the white opposite the paintings from the screen, that's white, pure white. There really is no pure white in this, which is remarkable. And to what Christy was saying about the use of the colors are so subtle and delicate, effective.
The buildings look almost modeled, especially the big surface, basically right of center. You could see pinks and greens and yellows and blues in it. And then, of course, as you move back, it becomes blended. If you look very closely, you can see the brushstrokes to it.
Okay, good. Well, just to keep things moving, so we have an opportunity to discuss all of the artworks, I wanted to quickly take a poll because all of your comments have just sparked such a wonderful conversation. But I'm wondering, you all sort of, many of you have described how the emotions that this painting has evoked in you. Do you think, just a quick poll, do you all think that how the general consensus, I think, is happy, calm? Do you think that's how the artist intended for the viewer to feel when viewing this work?
Yes.
Everybody thumbs up?
Yeah.
I think maybe the water texture, if they wanted to kind of have some unrest or unsettlement, then the water might have been a little more choppier looking. But right now it's kind of pretty smooth and just, it seems more tranquil.
Okay, good.
It's serene. I mean, I noticed the absence of people and animals, like there's no water birds or waterfowl or people in the boats or anyone looking out the windows. So it's just kind of a contemplative, serene scene.
Okay, good. Well, we'll have to end the conversation here, but I would like to have time to please tell you just a little smidgen about the artist. Christy, may we see the label, please? Okay, and I may ask Christy if she would please pronounce this, the title of the work.
It's just Key St. Catherine and Martigues.
Okay, the author. The artist is Arthur Watson Sparks, and the painting was done circa 1910 to 1919. Arthur Watson Sparks was an artist born in 1870 in Washington, D.C., and he died August 6th, 1919, presumably of the Spanish flu epidemic. He was an American painter and art teacher. He traveled extensively in Europe, and his interest in Impressionism and the quality of light, and he observed it on the southern coast of France. And I think that's really evident in this highly accomplished work. The shadows, the visible thick brush strokes, the reflections in the water and the sun-drenched facade demonstrate his full absorption of the style. You know, in America, French Impressionism influenced techniques, but there were less structured compositions, a brighter color palette, loose brushwork, while continuing with traditional academic training. And the invention of commercially available tin paint tubes around 1840 eliminated the laborious process of hand mixing paints in the studio and helped facilitate the ease with which painting outdoors could take place. Okay, well, Christy, may we look at the next artwork, please?
I have I don't know if I'm the only one getting this, but the information is not very clear on my screen. Is anyone else having that problem?
I can do a reshare, Ellen, just to see if it clears it up a little bit.
A what?
I did a reshare, so
okay.
See if that helped your screen. If not, does anybody else have any problems with blurriness? No? Okay, no. It could just be a hiccup in your broadband connection, Ellen, that'll clear itself up.
I'm just wondering if that's it, because the paintings are okay. I see Gary said, okay, all good here. Okay, thanks a lot. I'll check on mine.
Oh, good. Good. Well, so I hope y'all will just please take a few moments to look at this artwork top to bottom, side to side, corner to corner. So what's going on in this artwork?
It's interesting. I see sea creature animals, for a better terminology, a turtle and some sort of a fish and maybe a frog. So it's kind of interesting that they seem to be real, but a little abstract to me.
Okay, good. And what do you see that makes you say that they're a little bit abstract?
I guess they don't look like definitive replications of a real fish or turtle that would actually look like that, but it's representative of it. So I identify it as that. I'm not sure about the pink on the bottom, the three blobs, as I'll call them. I don't know what those are supposed to be. And it's hard to tell at the top, but those look like some sort of sea creatures as well.
Okay, good.
It's very horizontal. It seems like it's really broken up into a center section and almost two minor frames on the top and on the bottom.
Okay, good.
To me, it has a feeling of a collage, and someone just said Japanese block artwork. So similar, yeah.
Okay, good.
Feeling.
I see the horizontalness reminds me of nature, and in the top dark area sort of land, and then separated by possibly nets, going below that into the aquatic or the water area. So it sort of represents to me water and land with that where they meet, that interface.
Okay, good. So what shapes do you see? You all have described seeing land, nets, and the sea creatures, but what shapes do you see?
The thing that stands out to me the most is that kind of, I guess it's a round sun, the brightness of it with the pink and then the radiating colors coming out of it. It's like I find it hard to even look at the painting because I keep finding my eyes just sitting on it and just it holds my attention so much that I keep getting pulled back to that bright red, and you almost have to struggle to kind of pay attention to the other elements because it's always catching your attention so much.
Okay, good.
The turtle seems very angry. Look, the mouth on it, or there's something about it, and it seems like he's almost ready to grab what the fish has in its mouth.
Okay, good.
It's interesting with the balance of the greens because there's a lot of pastels going on here with the lighter pinks and the blues, and yet the green at the top and the green of the turtle are very dark and vibrant.
Okay, good.
I think the turtle looks like a turtle. Loggerhead turtle. I don't think they express what we think of as anger, but that's just my feeling. And to me, it looks like a catfish floating above. And to me, there's something very sweet about this that I'm hoping the fishing lines, I hope they don't get caught up in the fishing lines, but it feels like the best word I can think of is some kind of coexistence, including the bright sun or moon or whatever that is.
Okay, good.
The size of the fish appears oversized compared to the other creatures and other elements that are shown on purpose, of course. You were asking about shapes before, the sun, of course, and the blue around it. And then in the sand close to the edge of the water, these round shapes are repeated in these gray circles.
Okay, good. So you're seeing an echo of the round shape. Does anyone else see an echo with regards to another shape in this work?
Not shape, but
Movement.
certainly color.
Sorry.
All the different shades of blue in the lower part of the painting, around the sand, and in the background, all various shadings.
Okay, good.
I don't know if anyone has mentioned, but you're asking about repetition of shapes.
Yes.
You have the repetition in the lower right-hand corner of the somewhat of a sphere. You have the first real strong sphere, of course, in the sun, and then the ring around that. And then over to the left in the top quarter of the work, you have this, from my computer, it looks like a caricature of the moon. So it looks at, and there's some that I have seen in either advertising or somewhere, yeah, I'm not sure where I've seen it. But then you drop down then into the upper, like the middle third, where you have maybe sand,
or pools of water. So you have that sphere repeated there. All through there. And then that sphere gets repeated again, that circular motion, in not only the shape of the fish, but the fish's body and the fish's eye.
Okay,
So for
good.
all of the horizontal line in this painting, there's a lot of repetition of the spherical shape.
Yeah, Kathy said in the chat, there's undulating shapes everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of movement.
Well put.
I'm sort of seeing the green circular part in the upper left hand part of the picture. It almost looks like the turtle's face, kind of, sort of the mouth and the eye. I'm also interested or intrigued by the red that comes from the sun or the moon or whatever that is, with the red light underneath in the atmosphere. And then again, as a reflection, perhaps at the bottom, lower bottom part of the piece. And off to the, speaking of the bottom, the circular piece in the corner there of the bottom almost looks like a face. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see it really clearly. So what I'm seeing is sort of a face with some eyes, and possibly there's something else being reflected in the water that we can't see, that I can't see in the painting, but that's what comes up for me. And I also am noticing sort of the circular motion above the what looks like the water level, sort of in the sky. Intriguing. Thank you.
There's
Okay,
also
good.
a very rectangular situation going across the upper center with line, the strong turquoise line going straight across, and then the vertical lines dropping down from it. And they're basically very straight with what looks like, like pieces of string at the top of it. And, it looks like they're dropping into the water, but it's creating almost a very rectangular piece to it, where other parts are very undulating.
Yeah, Gary said in the chat box that it might be like nighttime fishing, shrimp fishing. Gary, why specifically did you think shrimp?
I remember when I first came to Jacksonville, they would sit at the dock and everybody would shrimp fish into the St. John's River. And I'd never seen that before, but when I saw those kind of lines going down, that's what it kind of looked like. And they were doing it at nighttime. I guess there's better, the shrimp respond better at nighttime than during the day.
Okay,
so
good.
that's, and then I also noticed the title at the bottom saying the magic moon, and I was like, oh well, I guess it is kind of nighttime on that one.
So, what would you all ask the artist about this? If he were here, what would you ask the artist?
I need to know if he thinks that's a green otter floating on the top.
Yeah,
So you said otter in the chat box, Sandy, but specifically, let me point that out. Where is that you want me to point to?
So the round head to the left,
Here?
big round head, yep, with the
Okay.
mouth and the eyes and his little top hands, and then follow it all along. He's floating, and there's his feet attached to the moon.
I think in my brain, I needed to zoom out a little bit. He's floating on his back is what you're seeing.
Oh, yes. Does anybody else see that?
The green shape. Yeah, the green shape is what's baffled me from the get-go on this one. I keep wanting to figure out what it is. And at first, with the dialogue, I was thinking, okay, it's land, it's green, but it does look like something on its back and a Loch Ness monster. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, good. So I'm sensing from the laughter that this artwork we'll just do another quick poll about what emotions this artwork has evoked in you. But I get a sense that this is kind of a joyous, happy. It's evoked some laughter. It's whimsical. Is that kind of an accurate description of how you all sort of feel when you look at this artwork?
It's whimsical, but I still wonder about the turtle and the fish. Is the turtle angry and trying to go for what the fish has in its mouth, or what's its emotion being expressed in that phase of it? I think there are different parts to it.
Okay, good. Well, just in the essence of time, we'll have to stop our conversation here. But if anyone has a final comment or question, please feel free to speak up now.
I would ask the artist what he liked best, the features he liked best in creating this artwork.
Okay.
And Gary, I think you had a comment.
I'm trying to remember now.
Sorry, I think I
That was
interrupted.
days ago, I think. No, I'm.
You're good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. And Megan, just as a closing thought on this artwork, Kathy had put in the chat box, I love this, blood moon, or say the saying, red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky in morning, sailors take warning.
Oh, that's good.
So then I've got to know, Kathy, is it night or morning? Because what should my feeling of ominousness be?
Well, a blood moon, I've seen them. I don't know if you all have, but they're really are quite beautiful. And it's most red when it's, near the water and just coming up for some reason. That's when it does seem most red. And it makes me feel like the surface of the water is pink because of the red. So who knows? It feels like either a red sky in the morning, but the sky is so black that it really does feel more like a moon, perhaps. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, thank you all so much. Chrissy, may we please see the label? Okay, this is entitled Three Friends, Loggerhead, Albino Catfish, and Magic Moon. And the artist is Kay Francis. This is a color woodcut on paper. And this artwork is a combination of reduction and multi-block. A reduction print is made when an artist creates a multicolored layered print using a single print block. The block could be foam, linoleum, or even wood. The artist repeats the process of carving and printing over and over until the final look is achieved. You can see the color overlaying in some areas, indicating that they would be separate blocks, and that some seem to line up, suggesting that they were the same block, but different printing for each color. There's a lot of overprinting, 7 or 8 colors. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the artist. Kay Francis was born in 1945 in Memphis, Tennessee. He currently works out of a studio in Florida. And he's a narrative artist, and he's been actively producing work for 40 years. And his paintings and works and prints and photographs and sculptures are in over 30 major public and private international collections, including the National Gallery, National Museum of American Art, the Asheville Art Museum. And just a quick quote from him: "My work is mostly narrative intent. I wouldn't say that I tell stories with my visual art. When I want to tell a story, I use words and write a story. The initial impulse that drives me to start on an image is a narrative impulse, but once the work is underway, the artwork has a life of its own. The words drip away and form that point. On the creation of the work is based on purely visual response. Most of the work assumes its own identity, finds its own way to completion. I do what the work tells me to do, and when a work is successful, it's because I've managed to get out of the way. This way of working makes bragging such a hollow experience, not the ego-building, uplifting thing that bragging is designed to be. Karen, did you have something you wanted to say? Or I thought I heard someone with a comment. Okay, well, Christy, if we could please see the last artwork. Okay, and we'll take a few moments to look at this top to bottom, side to side, corner to corner.
I'm sorry that it's not as crisp as the other ones. This is the best image that I have of this particular painting.
Okay, so where is your eye drawn first in this artwork?
I had a question. Can anyone read what it says in the bottom right-hand corner? Looks like letters and numbers there. I can't.
I believe that's just the artist's signature and the year. His last name is Bierlan, and it just says 1950. It says 57-8. So that just represents the artist's name and the years that it was painted.
And my eye is drawn to where the massive dark blue meets the kind of yellowish mustard kind of color. That's where my eye is initially drawn.
Okay, good. And what more can you find about the massive dark blue and where it joins the mustard yellow?
It looks to me, and it's because I have these cats, I think, that I'm seeing cats everywhere. But right in the center of or to the right of the blue part. Yeah, right. Doesn't that look like a cat's face? Looks like a cat sitting up to me.
Okay, good. And what do you see that makes you say that?
Well,
the cat sitting up?
The cat sitting up. I see the face and the I've like the lighter face, like a tortoise cat, and then down below the legs, the front legs. I'm sure that's not what the artist intended, but that is just what I see. I see a face. Yeah, see the nose.
Oh, okay, good.
You got cats on the brain, Billy.
I do.
How many cats do you have?
Just two, but they're kittens.
Oh, just two. Just two.
Well, I'm a cat owner. Does anyone else have a cat? Okay, good.
Anybody else see a cat, or is it just me? I mean, these are 9-month-old kittens, so they are we're right at the breaking point on them.
I do not see cats.
That's why you're obsessed.
Have one.
I see a village. I see buildings, the cluster of color slightly to the right. Maybe on the left is some water. And there's, I'm curious about this, the blue on the right, there seems to be a house, like a structure. Down, I'm sorry, on the left there. No.
Sorry, you guide me.
Around that structure there in the blue, it's a darker.
Oh, here?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, see, here?
Yeah. I'm curious about that. It looks like a house to me somehow. And to the immediate left of it is a pole or a tree, or I'm not sure what that is. But yeah, on the right, it just looks like a very abstract village of buildings and I don't know about the beige, is perhaps that's water. I love this. I think it's really interesting.
It's funny. I thought that that looks like almost a big house because it's that line going across. It looks like almost a door on the bottom with this dark blue and the blue, and then this little thing on top looks like a cupola, and I know exactly what you mean. I kept thinking that that was almost a building, maybe even a barn. I wasn't quite sure. But I see it as almost one building there. And maybe in the other areas, the multicolored area, it's like the backdrop of an abstract town set back, that this is in the front and this leads up to it.
I think it's really interesting that both Ellen and Micah Jean saw like a village, and you saw it from sort of like on the ground perspective. But at first, when you said village, Micah Jean, I thought that you meant like a bird's eye view of a village. You know, when you're flying over in an airplane, you sort of really see things in sort of squares and rectangles and circles, and that's what I thought you meant. So then when Micah Jean and Ellen, when you started talking about, you know, seeing things from sort of boots on the ground view, I had to readjust my perspective.
Mine is like it's almost from a distance, but on almost an eye level view, as opposed to being a bird's eye view.
Which is how I think Micah saw it as well.
Yeah,
that's true. But now that you said a bird's eye view, I'm thinking, and I'm curious about on the far right, there's that kind of beige vertical line, and then something white at the bottom. Maybe it's part of the village, but that's real curious to me as well.
I like to suggest the big green patch that's in the upper left hand. I mean, that at first, no, to the all the way to the left. Yeah. That whole green area could either be a field, or when I looked at it first, I thought, well, maybe it's because it looks like it has a pitch, that it would be a roof.
I'm just sort of seeing an odd mishmash of shapes. And I would like to ask the artist what the inspiration was and whether or not this was kind of pre-planned, or if it almost looks like they just started putting colors and shapes and just kept going, and it took it where it took it, if you will. So
I almost see it from the opposite side, because when like the two other ladies had talked about the kind of building structures towards the front in that blue area, they caught my attention, and I kind of felt like there was an industrialization going on there in the blue mass, and that the other part of the painting is kind of like what the landscape and village looks like from, like they were saying, from down on the ground looking, but this other part of the town or view are all those industrial buildings and how they kind of have smog or dirt or just contamination associated with them. So that almost kind of that point of view of the painter, I think it was very intentional that they're trying to, because that blue looks to me like almost like a toxicness to it or something compared to the rest.
What I'm wondering about now as we're looking at this is blue typically in our minds represents either sky or sea. And so if we look at this and see a body of water and perhaps a lakefront or a seashore, I don't know, what I was doing as I'm thinking about this is going back to the blue theme and saying, why that much blue?
I'd like to suggest something. I'd like to have a word.
Go ahead, Susie.
Thank you. If you look at the whole thing and you're looking at this collection of colors, if you take one of them, like maybe that very red part towards the right, or maybe that pastel lavender one that's kind of right in the middle, and you think, all right, if I took that out, how would that affect the whole painting if it didn't exist there? I think every one of those blotches of color are important, and it's like he's making a batch of muffins or something. He's just putting a bunch of things together, and he's putting them very, very carefully. When he puts some of those colors onto that dark blue just a little bit, it connects the two images. But I would steer away from imagining he was actually trying to depict things in that. I think he was playing more with what color does when you look at it.
So you and Laurel are on the same page, Susie. You're not seeing necessarily or trying to find recognizable subject matter, but you're sort of relishing in the combination of color and shape and the feelings that they evoke.
Yeah.
Do I have that right, Susie and Laurel?
I think we're going in that direction. And just looking at it now, that very bright green to the right side, if that was gone, it would change the whole picture. You wouldn't have a balance. Anyway, that's what I see.
I keep looking at the far distance, which makes the front part, of course, jump out more at us as being really close up. It looks like mountains in the distance with some white building on top of the left building. And then on the right side, what I see coming out of the beige vertical on the right side looks like a wall going across. It could almost be abstract painting on the wall. But I see the distance, and all the way to the left in the distance, we see low, flatter land. Yeah, so there is a lot going on in the back.
Okay, good. I'm hearing from everyone that there's a lot going on in this painting, and I feel like you all are striving to sort of make sense of this painting and sort of dividing the artwork into sections, left and right. Industrial or village or mountains, trying to discern if there's if it's a lakefront or a seashore. So I'm wondering what emotions does this artwork evoke in you, or how does it make you feel? It seems to me that everyone is trying to make sense of it, but I'm very interested to know how it makes you feel.
Megan, there seem to be two camps. We have half of the folks that are sort of finding recognizable subject matter in it. But over in the chat box, there's a really interesting conversation going on. Kathy said that she can see Billy's cat. So Billy, you have a second vote there. But that Kathy D and Christina and even Kathy S have sort of come back around and said that, maybe we shouldn't be looking for recognizable subject matter, just enjoying sort of the emotions that those juxtapositions of color and shape are evoking. Just let the abstraction be abstract.
Okay, good.
That
it's an interesting use of color, because it's really a good demonstration of the impact of complementary color.
One thing that I was noticing, and it's because I tend to abstraction when I paint, is especially in the bottom right area, there's a lot of layering, and it's as if there was at least one underpainting there. And it may even be throughout the painting that he took a canvas and played with it and worked with the textures that were previously on it and built up on it. And especially now, which I had mentioned about the buildings, the blue and the shapes, and because of the lines, I could even see where there is underpainting there. So
Okay,
I think
good.
I began to think it is maybe a lot more abstract than we originally thought it was.
So Sandy S., you and your friend there on the computer took a step back for a while and we're looking at this painting from a distance, and I'm interested if you could share what you all came up with from that exercise. There you go.
So we saw by stepping back how kind of obvious it was that you could see these blotches of color represented things like fields and buildings and homes and bay and water. And that it felt like an aerial view. And we enjoyed so much the blotches of color, but I have to tell you, her cat is a definite fish for me.
Okay, good.
I'm sure that Billy's cats wouldn't mind having that catfish from a previous print.
Yes.
Thank you guys for sharing, Sandy.
I just can't unsee the building in the blue. You know, someone said a barn, and down at the bottom, it looks like the door is ajar at the bottom of the structure. I can't unsee that. And I'm still really curious about the upper right. And there's something white there, and it almost, I don't know if you can zoom in on that, but it looks like, is that a word? Is it, or am I just making that up?
Oh, there is.
Oh, there, it looks like home.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The word home. It looks almost like it's the shape of the building on an angle, especially with the roofs.
Yeah.
You guys, I wish that we were looking at this in person. Sometimes just images don't do justice.
I still think that he built up at least, there's at least one underpainting there that's coming through. And then he may have also scraped color on and scraped it off.
Could I ask a question of Ellen? I don't know if the artist is male or female, but by underpainting, you mean like a painting within the painting?
A painting, he had an original painting, he had painted on a canvas, and he decided he didn't like it, and he didn't want to waste the canvas, so he painted over it, and he allowed other layers to come through. And then maybe has also scraped off to get various and sundry textures, because you can see these lines on the bottom. And that's maybe because I've painted like that, and I have taken canvases and built up and taken off. And that's why I think, I'm thinking that there's at least one underpainting under there.
I would like to know where the artist started and ended. That would be interesting.
Yes. Yes. Well, I wish that we could talk with the artist. But this is, I'm always amazed at which artwork seems to spark the most conversation. But we'll have to end the conversation here. But Christy, if we could please see the label. This is Untitled, 1958.
No help there.
Perfect for
the artist. Excuse me, George Bierlan. Is that? He was born in Peoria, Illinois, in 1923. He served in World War II. He pursued his art and earned an MFA from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And he's best remembered for his intense color palette applied across a spectrum of maturing styles. Beginning with abstract expressionism, accurate illusionism, narrative scenes, and finally to his trademark color field paintings. He was consistently informed by his interest in important human issues, including social justice, health, sexuality, environmental stewardship, and religious faith. Well, thank you all so much.
I have one question.
Yes.
they say mixed media. Do you know what the other parts of it were? Was it acrylic? Was it oil? Was it paper? Ink? Alcohol ink? Do we know anything more about it just being, but by it being mixed media?
Christy?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to pull that up on my computer, Ellen. The only thing that I can see is just it says mixed media on Canvas.
Yeah.
So that might suggest that there could be a mixture of different kinds of paints. I don't think that there's anything adhered to the surface, but I'd have to look at it. I'm sorry, I can't pull that up and tell you more. But again, this is another reason why I wish we were in the galleries looking at this in person, because I'm sure that you and others who are artists could maybe look at that and give us a little bit more insight into the materials that the artists.
I'm going to make sure I get to see that in the next few days.
Thanks,
and
Ellen.
I'll let you know what.
I'm not sure that if it's, I don't know if it's in the gallery right now. I'd have to go double check. So maybe pop me an email and I'll go check and make sure that I save you a trip if it's not there.
Well, I'm going anyway. Thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you all. Your comments were so insightful and just sparked such a meaningful conversation. Just it's 1 o'clock, so our time is up. But if everybody wants to just shout out, what was your favorite artwork today? And unfortunately, we don't have time to discuss why, but I'd love to know.
First.
Number one, everybody voted for number one, raise your hand. Okay, not as many as I thought. Number two. Okay, not anybody's favorite. And number three. All right, so we have some folks that like the abstraction. Thank you, Megan. This was a really great conversation. I think, Megan, we didn't really let you get a lot of time to tell us anything about these artworks, but what a great conversation, and really thinking about the color blue and its effect on us. And you chose a really nice variety of artworks to kick off our weekend. So thank you, Megan, for leading us today. Thank you all of you for coming. I said all of us. Thank you, all of us, for coming and giving us your insights. Really great conversation today. Next Friday, March 5th, our topic is, are you ready for this? We wear the mask. Okay. We have masks in our lives for the past year, but it's really interesting take the three artworks that our docent Kay Dunn and docents Kay Dunn and Susan Coleman have chosen for us, as usual, in 3 different media by 3 very different artists, both from our collection and another work from our special exhibition across the Atlantic, American Impressionism Through the French Lens. So another great conversation waiting. I believe if it hasn't already hit your inbox, you will be getting an email here within the next couple of minutes announcing our March lineup for Slow Art Friday, as well as links to get registered. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. Thank you so much, and we will see you again soon. Take care.
Bye.
Thank